I've got pull in HR. The HR director told me I can say anything.
My boss, who is my sister Kate, is supposed to have the title of the director of sales department at headquarters, but it seems like there's some high-level connections going on.
This year's new hire, an Ivy League grad, is really talented. I feel bad for him, but as part of the headquarters staff, I need to turn the sales office around.
What do you mean? With a puzzled look, I faced my sister, who smirked mischievously at me.
Don't get it. This is why high school grads, basically, you, a high school grad, are fired today, replaced by an Ivy League elite rookie. How did you land such a big contract? They even said they'd cancel if you weren't in charge.
Didn't you hand it over to the elite rookie? I asked my sister in a calm voice.
Don't get smart with me just because you're a high school grad. Just get to work now. That's an order from your boss.
My name is Steve Campbell, a corporate employee in my 30s. I've worked at a candy manufacturer, a company everyone knows since childhood, nearing 2 decades now. Currently, I'm busy every day as a mid-level employee at the sales office. It's a small office, but everyone works together in harmony, striving to improve our sales performance. I graduated high school and went straight to work at this candy factory. However, about 10 years ago, I took an internal certification exam to switch to sales because it's what I really wanted to do. Though I completed the training without knowing anything about sales, the people at this sales office taught me everything from scratch. Now, I'm surrounded by reliable bosses, experienced colleagues, and the newcomers I first mentored, enjoying fulfilling days. I have a special connection with a particular candy from our company, which is why I decided to work here. Not being particularly good at studying, I wanted to work immediately after graduating high school, and if I was going to work, it had to be at my favorite candy factory. Both the factory and sales jobs have their challenges, but I find this work rewarding, and above all, I love the products we make. My relationship with this candy goes back a long way, to when I was barely aware. I think it was my sister, 4 years my senior, who first gave me this candy. This sweet candy, often served during snack time at home, is a cherished flavor of my childhood, a taste that brings back fond memories. Even now, having experienced many flavors, this one remains special and my favorite. My parents, who knew of my love for this candy, were shocked to see how a simple purchase influenced my future, but there was another reason for their surprise. That's my sister. When I got the job, my sister had already left home for college. The kind sister who used to give me candy had disappeared long ago, and as we grew up, she became critical of everything about me. Complaining about my grades, my looks, it seemed she found fault with everything. If I pushed back even a little, she would come back at me tenfold. That led me to gradually avoid her. At the same time, her relationship with our parents worsened, and she didn't even show up for our father's funeral a few years ago. Even though I had moved out for my job, I returned home worried about my mother being alone. But my sister never contacted us once. On a Monday morning, half asleep, I arrived at work and turned on my PC, fueled by coffee.
Steve, do you know the person coming for the inspection today?
My colleague at the next desk suddenly asked. While checking my emails, I glanced over.
I got a message from a colleague at the headquarters warning me to be careful.
Really? Is this person that intimidating? I didn't even catch the name of who's coming. The notice of today's inspection from headquarters had arrived last Friday. Caught off guard by the sudden notification, I scrambled to prepare the documents, but I hadn't asked who was coming. George, the person coming for the inspection today is. Just as I started to ask my manager, George, the office door flew open.
What's with this messy office? Do you even clean?
Scanning the room, the woman frowned and spat out those words. Dressed in an expensive suit, her flawless makeup added an air of intimidation. I was taken aback by her face.
Hello, Kate. How are you today?
George greeted the person, who happened to be my sister who I hadn't seen in years. A few years after I joined the factory, my sister, having graduated from university, chose the same candy company for her career. I heard from our parents that she was assigned to the glamorous sales planning department after graduating from a prestigious private university in the city, and was on the fast track to success. Though she hadn't been in touch with the family since then, so I knew nothing of her progress. I had no idea she had climbed up to be a department head at headquarters.
Oh, I thought I recognized the face. Still wearing that tacky suit. Can any client really want to deal with a salesman like you? Maybe try a little harder to improve your sales figures.
While I stood there stunned, insults flew my way. But it didn't stop there. My sister scowled as she glanced at a nearby cabinet.
What's with this document shelf? So, it's like you can't even mess up, right? Maybe you should start over from kindergarten.
The cleanup from last weekend's frantic search for documents hadn't been completed yet. She pointed it out sharply, leaving me without a comeback.
And you?
She looked down at my colleague sitting next to me. You visibly flinched. He was a young man, fresh out of college last year. Like me, he joined the company because he loved candies and was eager to learn as much as possible about his job. A hard worker, earnest in everything he does.
It's fine to love our products, but this isn't your home. Maybe if you didn't eat so much without restraint, you wouldn't have that figure.
She pointed to the candies on his desk. But commenting on someone's body seemed off limits. At her words, he looked down, unable to lift his face. I could stay silent if it were just me, but I couldn't ignore her harsh words towards my colleagues. That's no way to talk.
Huh? Who do you think you're speaking to? A mere factory worker turned employee should know their place.
But I've been working hard every day, and my sales aren't that bad. My sister gave me a cold glance, then flipped through a document nearby.
Your sales figures. Let's see, what's this? Why does it take so long to close the deal?
Which one are you talking about? Peeking over, it seemed she was looking at my sales report.
Why are you dragging your feet instead of sealing the deal? While you're dilly-dallying, remember, the paychecks keep rolling in.
But this was a major contract discussion, so I told them to think it over. As I reminisced about back then, I told her,
Huh? Closing deals is your job, isn't it? Why didn't you just get it done?
because it seemed like they were still hesitant, and I didn't want them to have regrets later on. The client was new and inexperienced, making it hard for them to make a decision. After internal discussions, they still hesitated to sign the contract. I proposed various options until they were satisfied.
Who cares if the client regrets it later? Unbelievable. That lukewarm sales approach is why you're not making much profit.
But I couldn't agree with my sister's view, but it seemed she couldn't care less about my feelings. Looking around the office, she announced in a voice that carried,
I've got pull in HR. The HR director told me I can say anything.
My sister is supposed to be the director of sales department at headquarters, but it seems like there's some high-level connections going on.
This year's new hire, an Ivy League grad, is really talented. I feel bad for him, but as part of the headquarters staff, I need to turn the sales office around.
What do you mean? Facing my puzzled look, my sister smirked mischievously.
Don't get it. This is why high school grads, basically, you, a high school grad, are fired today, replaced by an Ivy League elite rookie.
The day after my sister fired me, I took the day off. Technically, it was using up my paid leave. With my departure at the end of the month, I still had quite a bit of leave remaining. After my sister returned to headquarters yesterday, my colleagues crowded around my desk, each trying to persuade me to stay. Thankfully, my colleagues seemed to need me. However, a decision from headquarters isn't easily overturned. Given my sister's character, she's likely to fabricate a legitimate reason to submit for my dismissal. I could protest to headquarters, but I didn't want to fight with my sister anymore. And so, I decided to resign from the company I'd worked at for nearly 20 years. While having lunch with my mother, I absent-mindedly watched TV. I rarely had the chance to watch daytime TV on a weekday, but perhaps I'll have more leisure time like this from now on. I need to start looking for a new job. While idly watching a celebrity fashion showdown, which I had little interest in, my phone rang. It was the sales office. Hey, it's Steve.
You kept quiet about the Trans Corporation project. What are we going to do now? They're furious.
I was so startled by my sister's shouting that I pulled the phone away from my ear.
How did you end such a big contract? They even said they'd cancel if you weren't in charge.
Didn't you hand it over to the elite rookie? I asked my sister in a calm voice.
Don't get smart with me just because you're a high school grad. Just get to work now. That's an order from your boss.
With that, I reluctantly went to the office. Since I'm still an employee of this company until the end of the month, I had no choice. Plus, if I left things as they were, it seemed like it would cause trouble for everyone at the sales office. Upon arrival, my sister, looking furious, confronted me.
Explain yourself.
Regarding Trans Corporation, I started to recount from memory. Trans Corporation was the client my sister had criticized for my lukewarm sales. The young representative back then, after much deliberation, landed a major contract, but later on, he reached out wanting to discuss a new project with the boss present. He was touched by the personal attention I gave, and it seemed the word had spread within his company. I was honestly pleased that they appreciated my approach as a salesperson. However, the project they brought was unlike anything I had seen in my sales career, with staggering figures. I double-checked numerous times, but they insisted on proceeding because of their trust in me. Eventually, I had my supervisor sit in, and we closed the deal. Unaware of the situation, my sister apparently tried to extend her greetings for the change in contact, only to be turned away. But I'm resigning, and I don't think there's anything more I can do.
Don't pass the buck. Don't you feel bad for the people you're leaving behind? This jerk.
At that, it was my turn to frown.
What? Got something to say?
I just didn't expect to be called jerk by you, of all people. I retorted with anger in my voice.
What? You want to talk back to me? Feeling all high and mighty now, huh?
Do you think they's a bigger jerk than a daughter who doesn't show up to her own father's funeral? My sister gasped, her expression turning to one of hesitation. I don't mind if you hate me, but Dad and Mom have always been worried sick about you, Kate. Why won't you just give them a call? Enough with dragging out this rebellious phase already. You're the jerk here, aren't you?
What? What could you possibly understand?
My words made her scream out, sounding like a banshee.
Ever since we were little, you were the darling, always praised for being so kind and good, despite hardly ever cracking a book.
That's a whole different issue, isn't it?
It matters. I mean, I worked hard. Always top grades, awards, went to a good university.
Compared to my accomplished sister, my grades were nowhere near. I've never been awarded anything. That's right. You've always been outstanding.
Yeah, that's right. I worked hard for it. I was supposed to be Mom and Dad's pride and joy. They used to say to me that I was doing great.
Our parents were always so gentle, so while I remember being praised, I hardly recall being scolded.
But they used to say the same thing to you, you know, that you were great, being so kind to people.
Those words made me realize something. Indeed, our parents never scolded me for my grades. They were the type to praise me for helping the elderly neighbors or returning lost items.
Why do you get treated as equal or even better than me when I'm the one busting my ass? You just laugh it off, don't even bother working hard, and still manage to get a job with just a high school diploma.
My sister was furious, but not with the usual condescension or intimidation. Instead, she seemed almost in pain.
They told you, someone who's basically a loser, that it was a job celebration, and suggested going on a trip together. But when I got into university after studying my butt off, all they said was congratulations.
I was never scolded, not even for my poor academic performance. Being kind to others was always seen as a virtue. I've been living carefree, oblivious to the hard work behind my outstanding sister's shadow. It's the first time I've heard about her feelings like this.
That's why I've always hated you. Being doted on by our parents, acting as if you know nothing.
Kate. She sighed heavily after saying that. Now, I understood why my sister hated me, why she became distant from our parents. She unleashed her rage and then stared at me in a daze, with a quiet gaze.
When I got the job, did Dad and Mom say anything?
She asked quietly, as if a weight had been lifted from her. They were surprised, you know, finding out we're siblings working at the same company, but they mentioned it was your idea to buy those snacks.
Me.
That's what Mom had told me. When my sister was little, she was the one who wanted to buy that snack at the supermarket. She was so happy with the pink package, hugging it all the way home. Mom said she keeps buying it because it reminds her of that day. The first time I ate it was because you gave it to me. I wondered if she remembered that she had said it's really good, handing it to a younger me. Mom still buys that snack. I'm not a kid anymore, but she talks about the first time she bought it with you.
Mom remembered.
Dad, too. Whenever a new product comes out, he checks if it's something you designed, something I helped make in the factory.
Dad.
My sister choked up, looking down. When sorting through Dad's things, I found lots of drawings and letters you gave him back when you were a kid, and all your awards were kept safe. My sister's eyes widened in disbelief.
No way. I thought I had torn all those up when I left home.
So that's why they were all taped together. I wondered why. Dad must have found them and kept them. Dad was always quiet, but worried about my sister. I felt it too, as her brother.
It might be too late to say this now, but why didn't I say goodbye to Dad?
Sobbing, my sister collapsed to her knees.
I'm sorry, Dad. Mom.
Watching my sister sob like a child, I found myself deep in thought. Maybe if we had clashed like this when we were kids, we wouldn't have drifted apart like we did. But Dad's gone now. That regret will likely never fade. My sister has to live with that regret. She's faced with how to live on, alongside her mistakes. It's not all too late. There must be something she can still make right. And thus, my resignation was as if it never happened. The promising newcomer was quickly sent back to the headquarters, and peace returned to the sales office. My colleagues were happy, and though I had accepted my resignation, I too felt relieved. First thing, I went to apologize to Trans Corporation. I had dragged them into a matter that affected the company's reputation. I was ready to accept it if they decided to terminate the contract, but to my gratitude, they said, "We trust you, Steve." I renewed my determination to live up to that trust through my work. Meanwhile, my sister was apologizing everywhere, working hard to reverse my firing. This would surely shake the trust she had from higher-ups. It must affect her future promotions. But she had made that decision herself. And then she apologized to me.
I'm sorry for everything. It might not be something you can forgive just because I apologize, but I truly did find you adorable when you were toddling behind me.
It's hard to stay mad when you put it like that. It's kinda unfair bringing up stuff from when I don't remember, or so I grimaced.
Well, you weren't cute at all when you grew up. Your fashion sense was awful.
Do you really mean to apologize? Seems like I won't be winning any arguments with her anytime soon. On a pleasant, sunny day, as I was cleaning the yard, the doorbell rang. The unexpected visitor seemed to surprise Mom.
I'm sorry for being late. Can I offer flowers for Dad?
Yes, of course. Have you been well?
Amidst the awkward conversation between parent and child, I stepped in. Let's not stand here, come in. Once inside, my sister first took her time to offer her prayers to Dad's photograph, then apologized to Mom. Their conversation was stiff at first, but given the years of unspoken words, it was dark outside before we knew it. As Mom mentioned she was getting hungry, my sister offered some snacks she had brought. Eating snacks with my sister, how many years has it been?
Want some, Steve? These are really good.
She held out the packet of snacks to me. Caught off guard by the naturalness of it all, I was speechless, staring at my sister. It was like a flashback to our childhood.
Something wrong.
Seeing me freeze, she tilted her head. No, just reminded of the past. The way my sister looked at me now was as gentle as when she first gave me those snacks. A wave of nostalgia overwhelmed me. My childhood memories. My sister and the taste of sweet snacks. To think I'd get to experience this again. Dad's photo on the altar seemed to smile back at us.